And we're live in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the Planet Mullins podcast. I'm coming to you from one of our intergalactic Planet Mullins churches today. And I have an amazing guest with me. He's a Grammy nominated composer of exceptional talent. He's done literally hundreds of albums all over the world. His music can be heard on the Sopranos, the Oprah Winfrey Show. He's recorded with Vangelis, the Prague Symphony, Zamfir. Ooh, I love seeing that kind of stuff in there. And he's won numerous, New Age Albums of the Year award. Please welcome my special guest today, Mr. Michael Hoppe.
Rob, thank you very much, mate, for having me on your show. Thank you.
Of course, Michael. Before we get started, I got to do my quick little commercial here, pay for everything.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
And I noticed, you're a piano player like I am, so this will be relevant because I love pianos. And my sponsor today is a piano store in West Los Angeles called Pierre's Fine Pianos, and they're located at 11039 West Pico Boulevard. I actually have a teaching studio there, and I have one of my Kawai pianos there. It's a fantastic place for taking lessons. Of course, during the COVID time, it's all appointment only, so don't show up out in the front with your drum set and your shovel. You have to call the phone number at the website, and Pierre will be happy to speak with you. He's a exclusive Fazioli piano dealer, as well as having new and pre-owned Bosendorfer, Yamaha, Steinway, Kawai, and everything else that you would want. So once again, www.pierresfinepianos.com. Now, Michael, wow, I had the pleasure of chatting with you briefly yesterday, and then I started realizing that not only am I in presence of compositional greatness, but that you've done so much over your lifetime, and television, movies, live symphony concerts, a requiem with a choir. I mean, I don't even really know where to start because what you've done is so vast. I'm going to kind of let you, if you want to talk about how your new album came about, we could start there.
Yeah, Rob, let me do that, mate.
Okay.
It's, as I mentioned to you last night, it's truly an astonishing story. The album, Peace and Reconciliation, came about in the most extraordinary way. 2 years ago, I was told by a family friend that my wonderful father, who I've known and loved all my life, was in fact not my biological father. And it was an absolute, as you can imagine, stunning shock. It was like the ground beneath my feet giving way.
Wow.
And I also didn't know how to deal with this. I thought, what on earth am I going to do? I had a DNA test just to prove that was correct. And indeed, my wonderful brother Richard is my half brother. So I just didn't know what to do. Just really a pillar of my life had suddenly gone. And then I thought, well, I'm going to have my requiem, which I had done back in 2006 for 2 keyboards, 2 cello, violin, and it was released as under requiem. And I've always wanted it to be released as a choral record. I mean, it is a requiem after all. So I thought, well, with this astonishing story, I'm going to have my requiem arranged for a full choir, for an SATB choir, soprano, alto, tenor, with a string quartet accompanying it.
Right.
And I asked the master arranger, Richard Bronskill, to do it. And he did a fantastic job. And so what I had was sheet music of 8 movements of my requiem, now made for a full choir and a string quartet.
Exciting.
And I dedicated it at the top to my mother with her birth and death dates, and to my father with his birth and death dates, and to my unknown father.
Wow.
And so that's why it was called Peace and Reconciliation. And Rob, I'd now had just this sheet music. I had no idea what I was going to do with it. And then a miracle occurred, and all was this last year. And I had a call from Ryan Holder, who was the choral director of the Sedona Academy of Chamber Singers. And he said, Michael, would you like to come along and play for us in the church? I said, yeah, sure, why not? That's fine. And here's my fee and all. He said, Michael, no problem, everything is good. I said, look, I just got this Requiem. No idea, never heard it. No idea what it sounds like at all. Would you like to look at it? Yes, okay, Michael, come on, send it over. So, Rob, I sent it over as a PDF file.
Uh-huh.
And then a few days later, Ryan called me back and said, Michael, this is really lovely. Oh, it is? Well, yes, it is. Well, would you like to perform? Yes, I think we'll perform it. I said, Ryan, you wouldn't possibly like to record it, would you? I mean, maybe just a little, I mean, yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't, you can't, I mean, Sure,
oh, it's such a big job.
No, Michael, yes.
Wow.
No, Michael, yes, we will record this. Don't you worry. I thought, really? He said, yeah, come along to Scottsdale at the St. Maria Giorgetti Church, and you can see us recording it. I said, really? I said, yes. He said, yes. So Monica and I, my wife and I, went to Scottsdale, and there they were recording 40-piece choir, professional, string quartet, professional, not amateurish or Mickey Mouse in any sense. It was a most beautiful setup. Microphones everywhere. I thought, man, this is unbelievable. I had no idea that this would happen so quickly. And I frankly was moved to tears, Rob, when I heard it perform like this.
Well, for the first time.
And then I got really anxious. And Ryan said, why are you? I said, well, man, who's actually paying for all this? I mean, I thank you so much for doing it, but we haven't even discussed budget or anything like this. Michael, you're not to worry. I'm not. No. A couple from the church in Sedona are paying for this.
Wow.
They are. They're paying for everything. They are paying for everything. Michael, they have been fans of her music for the last 25 years. And they said to me, Ryan, give Michael what he wants. Let him do what he wants, and we will underwrite everything. And Rob, not only that, mate, but they said when it was all finished, Michael, the master belongs to you.
Whoa.
They gave me the master.
Wow.
And I then sort of said, well, I was so overwhelmed by that point. I then said, look, I'll give part of the proceeds of the recording back to the church.
Sure. Great.
And they were very happy with that. So it was from this astonishingly awkward, shocking beginning of learning about my parental history to eventually having this wonderful couple in Sedona paying for everything. So my wish for years was suddenly materialized from a very awful beginning.
Well, the story is unbelievably incredible, and I hear stories from time to time, but rarely anything of this extraordinary magnitude of events, because in life, life is, of course, an up and down process, right? And careers go up and down. But when you've put in your time and you've willed things, like, your desire was always to record it. It never happened, but
absolutely.
But you're putting the intention out there in the universe for all of this time.
Yes.
And while you're doing that, you're, working with Vangelis and and the proximity and all these other people. I mean, we could just do the on Sopranos and Oprah. We could do an hour on that. But to your point, when you have these things that are random, that seem random, that come together, but they all happen in a sequence without a hitch, because as you told your story, I mean, obviously from a family standpoint, it's got to be emotionally shocking, stunning, and surprising, and kind of strange, because if all of a sudden, it's not really my dad, this person, it's someone else that I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been in my bed just freaked out for a month just at that news.
Robert, I think about it every day, man. I think about it every day. I'm at peace with it. I am. I never found out who he was, the guy. I know that his name was Charles. That's all I know. but I never found out anything else. And eventually, through DNA, I found that the family went to New Zealand and all the rest of it, but actually never located who he actually
Incredible.
was.
Well,
But then what was so what was really amazing too, Rob, that when I had the European premiere in Hasselt, which is in Belgium, they performed the entire Requiem, and I had family members coming over from the UK who I had not seen in 60 years.
wow.
They were cousins. And why I had not seen them? Because my parents made sure I did not see them, because they knew the story. So therefore, this album, Peace and Reconciliation, is from a very, very real place. A reconciliation with my family, who, as I said, hadn't seen for all those years.
Yeah.
And it was incredible, Rob, that this could happen all before the dreadful pandemic. Incredible, Jack, incredible.
As just composer to composer, I want to say congratulations, because as you went through this step by step, each step of the whole process had the potential to just go completely wrong. Like, you know, if you had shown up there and the string quartet they didn't play in tune, that would have blown the whole thing. If the singers weren't good, if the people hadn't rehearsed, I mean, there's so many places in this chain of events towards the beautiful thing that I've listened to, and that all went perfectly, and then someone else paid for it. That's incredible.
Incredible, Jack.
Incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can't give enough gratitude. And that, Rob, all this happened before the pandemic started, because if it had happened this year, it would never have been recorded, obviously. And you know, ideas, feelings, concepts, but they go past, they go away. And who knows if it ever would have happened. So the timing was incredible. And I'm so, so grateful for that.
Well, you know, yay. And, you know, I know you've submitted this for consideration for a Grammy Award, so please tell everybody the category.
Yeah, it's going to be in Best Choral Performance in the classical section. And I thought that's where it belongs. And I didn't put it into any other category, so anybody who might be interested should focus on that. Best Choral Performance, Classical. Best
Choral Performance, Classical. That's so great, because you know, the Grammys used to do something. I've been part of the Academy and happily been a voting member for many years, and they used to do these amazing things during the week in Los Angeles. Like, I've never been to the New York Grammys, but as a LA resident, you know, there's all kinds of mixers and things that happen, and they used to have Grammy salute to classical music and the Grammy salute to jazz. And these things would go on for an entire week during the day, the week leading up to the Grammys. And I had, you know, they had an afternoon at Disney Hall with Earl Wild, who was a...
fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think we're probably some of the only people in the world that would remember that far back, you know, because Earl's been gone for a while now. This was in 2008 when I went. And
that's me too, Rob. I went there too, in New York. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it was so amazing. And then they had Lang Lang, who came and did his little dog and pony piano. That's like, I always think of him as like being on some sort of a unicycle that's got like a balloon under it, popping him up like in those old Monty Python cartoons. Yeah. He's just so hilarious to watch. I mean, nothing against his artistry, but it's just like that. And So, but this is kind of cool. I took my student Randy to the classical piano thing, and we're sitting there, and he looks up at the stage and he goes, "That's John Lithgow." And I said, "Yeah, look in your program. It's John Lithgow is the host of the afternoon." And he goes, "But that's John Lithgow." I said, "I know." He's John Lithgow, right? So listen, this is so silly, and then we'll move on. So they do the show, and Earl does his thing, and Lang Lang does his thing, and they're finishing, and John says, "Thank you very much." And he's at the podium, and it's about 25 feet. I had really good seats there. And I said, "Okay, Randy, we're going up. and I just grabbed him by the arm, and John is still at the podium. And I grab my student, and I go all the way up there to John, and I go, "Hi, John, I'm Rob Mullins, and this is my piano student." And he just loves everything about you. And John's like, "Oh, all righty then. Well, good. Nice to meet you, you know." He was so surprised.
Yeah.
And we got pictures from my student with John Lithgow, and then boom, the security people came, and you know, they like moved us out of the way. But isn't it interesting that this whole Recording Academy thing can bring all these different people and genres together? Like, I actually met you, not officially, but via an email that was something, it was a question about a technical issue on somebody else's project. You emailed me and said, "Hey, I think
me.
Yeah, you sent me an email that said, I think Michael Whalen's music is not working on the website, or it's not full song."
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
Well, that little technical thing there is what has brought us to this interview today. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, really? Yeah, really, yes. Because then I went to Michael's album, which I think is very good. And I went to YouTube. Actually, I could hear the whole thing. Yeah, it's smashing. You know, I mean, yeah, it's who knows what can happen. I mean, when I was nominated last time, 2003, for an album called Solace, the members were not known. And you had no way, apart from going through your chapter, who the members were. And then at some point, the Pandora's box was opened, as you know, Rob, and you can, in fact, locate a huge number of the members of this organization. Yeah, so it's a very much a crapshoot, frankly, and who knows. But I think, but all I will say, I feel already enormously blessed. And I think Ryan and the wonderful choir, the Sedona Academy and the Tetra String Quartet, we all feel blessed that it was made. And whatever happens, it sort of doesn't matter. And I feel completely at peace whatever does happen. But for a quality purpose, for best choral performance, it must be right up there, because it's a superb recording by a damn good choir, beautifully conducted by Ryan.
Now Ryan is, I'm not even a choral music guy, but I know the name Ryan Holder. That's how famous he is. That guy is so famous. And I have an uncle who is the son of Roger Wagner, of the Roger Wagner Chorale. And he's a huge fan of mine. He's an adopted uncle. His name is Dick Wagner. But this leads into something we talked about yesterday, which was what I thought was fascinating about your life. Because as you said, you know, I was in the service for a few years, and then I did other things. But Dick Wagner and the Roger Wagner Chorale were on that record label, Deutsche Grammophon, that you told me yesterday that you were able to, were you an employee there or a consultant? And
I was an executive. I basically was signed by Deutsche Grammophon as an executive, and I was only, 24.
Wow.
And they were based in Hamburg, in North Germany. And then I was living in the UK. I just left the army, and they brought me over to Hamburg. When I got there, they said, "Michael, sorry, changing the whole thing." "You are?" "Yep. I know you love classical music, but I think you've got to learn how we make money. It is not from that. It is from pop music. Do you know anything about pop music?" No, I don't actually. "Well, I think you should learn. So we're going to put you as a management trainee into the pop division, which is Polydor." And that's where I stayed. And Rob, I never went back, never started actually in classical, which is my love, frankly, of classical music. And I ended up by being head of A&R for Polygram, signing pop acts like William Ball, with the signing of ABBA and The Who. And Vangelis for me was, and still is, the most consummate, magnificent musician I've ever come across. A complete genius, and I don't use that word lightly. Wow. And Rob, I didn't say this yesterday, but it was him. He said, "Michael, if you've got the courage, leave the company and do your own music. I said, but V, I don't have anything to say. Or, no, he said, yes, I can feel it. The one piece you played to me, I can feel that you've absolutely got it, but you've got to have the courage to leave the company where you are now as vice president of A&R, and you've got to leave and do your own thing.
Wow.
It won't be easy, but you should. Well, Rob, I did, and it wasn't easy. It was extremely uncomfortable, and I was wondering what the hell I had done for about 3 years at least.
Were you already married at this time, starting your family? And
yes, I was.
Okay.
Yes, and we were based in New York, and so I came back one evening in 1983 to Monica, and I said, okay, I'm leaving. I'm leaving Polygram, and we're going to move to LA. Really? Yep. So we drove a car that needed to be deposited on the other side of the country, all the way from New York to LA. And then I wondered, as I just said, what the hell I had done by leaving such a good job. And I found, and I had consultancy. I helped people get record deals because I knew how to do that. And one of my clients was Tim Wheater, a magnificent flautist. And he said, Michael, why are you being such an idiot? I'm being an idiot. Yeah, you left the company to do your own music, but you're not doing anything of the sort. You're helping us get record deals and all that, yes, but you're not doing your own music. Michael, why don't you sit down and play? And look, man, I was sort of head of A&R. I know what people like. They certainly don't like my sort of sad music. Please don't. Michael, why are you being such an idiot?
Huh.
Sit down and play your music. At this very piano here I'm sitting at. And I said, oh, what do you mean like this? He said, no, Michael, you're not owning it. Own your own song. And don't sort of, fiddle about. You want to be a composer, right? Yes. Well, then you're not being one, are you? No. Well, start owning what you do. So I played the tune, and he said, Michael, would you play it slower? And then I'll start playing my flute. And Rob, he started to play, and I was frankly moved to tears. The album was called The Yearning, and it went on to get all sorts of awards. And that was really the beginning of my career.
Wow.
I never look back.
It's, but it's quite special that you had that kind of courage because, I am self-financed in most of my music. And early on in my 20s, I had a very wonderful, attractive girl who wanted to marry me and start a family and everything. And I was coming into the point of my second album budget. This was in 1982. And I never had the kind of courage that you had. I didn't have a job as good as, doing A&R at a label like that or signing Orbit a Polydor. My God, we can talk an hour about that. But I made the choice is that I would have to either, get married and be dedicated to that and care about, the future of the kids and all that, or I could try and get from Denver to Los Angeles after making my next record. And I never had the courage to do the family thing or try and do it. And in your case, it's such a leap of faith to just say.
Yeah, but Rob, I tell you, it was a leap of faith, but I can tell you an extremely important ingredient in the whole thing is that my wife, Monica, she believed in it. If you say, well, Michael, could you have done this by yourself? Probably not. So you need to do it as a couple? Correct.
Right.
So you would never have not believed in yourself enough to have done it if you were on your own. No. So I think, that's an incredible part of the equation. Important.
Well, it's generationally speaking, the generation my parents came out of, which was they were born in the 20s and they grew up in the 30s and went through the recession in World War II and all those kinds of things. Here in America, because I know you weren't born here, but in America, the whole thing was the family unit and marriage being the number one priority in your life, period. It was family, then it was church, then it was jobs. And it was a certain kind of mentality because I remember my mother, God rest her soul, stayed married to my dad from the time she was 19 until her death. and
Yeah.
he was 80,
Yeah.
I don't know, 86 or something. And they had lots of problems, but because of that mindset, the same one that you've got of like, we're a couple, we're in this together, we're going to make this happen. When you have that kind of support, it's like the wind beneath your wings in a way.
Oh, absolutely, Rob. It could not have happened in my case, definitely without Monica. It could not have happened. I really know this, and this is not me just playing the violin here. It really could not have happened.
Well,
you know.
well, here's an interesting question because, you know, I'm in a situation now, and I've been in before as a single guy that, you know, lives with different women or is in a relationship for a few years here and there. And if I'm playing on the piano and I'm coming up with something new and a woman comes passing through out of the kitchen and says, oh, I really like that, or, oh, I really don't like that. For me, I take it really personally because
Oh, yes.
that's at the point when I'm the most naked as a person. You know, that's when I'm at the piano trying to find the melody.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, Rob, I cannot do what you're just saying. I cannot have other people listening to what I'm doing. So I do everything on the headphones. And by the time I've worked it all out, which could be months, I then play it live, finished. But it agonizes me, let alone the listener, to hear me try and work something out, endless repetitions, bumbling, crashing, playing all the wrong nonsense chords. And I can only do this because of, Rob, this is really because of my background, my upbringing. Michael, please don't play the piano. You know, please don't, because so there was none of this. Oh, look at me, mummy. No. It was please don't. So I like to work all my stuff out so nobody can ever hear it. And when you say you're naked and all the rest of it, absolutely. If somebody comes, if Monica comes by and say, you know, well, not bad. Oh. So one has to.
Well, it's, you know, do you feel like, you know, the concept of the muse has a lot to do with your writing? Because there are days when I'll get up and I'll be just, you know, doing any kind of mundane fluff activity. I could be walking the dog or going in the grocery store or stuck on the freeway, and all of a sudden, blam, it's like this lightning bolt hits and this song plays in my head, and then I'm thinking, I've got to get to a piano or sing that into a voicemail or before it just fleetingly leaves me.
Yes.
And those days, I feel like it's a divine inspirational. It's like I have my own little angel choir, virtual choir going, oh, you know, this is perfect.
Yeah.
But,
right. And Rob, but when you have those moments, which are, you know, incredibly beautiful, but it's amazing, man. You think I will never forget that progression or that melody or whatever, but you do. So when you come back and you think, now where was it? It was something like this, and you know, fiddling around, and you think, no, I haven't found what I was looking for, like the U2 songs. I just can't. I don't know where it was, but you had it, and so therefore you sing it into your recorder. Absolutely incredibly important. Yeah. Because music flees, it departs.
Yes, it does.
It's like ether.
Yeah, it's like ether, or it's like butterflies during the season where they come in and they're like, well, I'm only alive 8 more hours, and here's what I have to say. Goodbye. Wait, don't fly away yet. And I think what frustrates people and has frustrated people in my life that are around me is that when I'm having these kinds of moments, I might be walking with some milk and, you know, a package of tea and some muffins up a walkway, but I'm not there. You know, my body is there carrying the grocery bag. And
right.
And if somebody says, well, hello, how are you? I don't even notice. Like I'm just going, I got to set down this grocery bag and get right to the piano.
Well, I always came under the heading, Rob, and it wasn't really meant as a compliment, but as the dreamer. And so for me to be in that state, and all my friends and family know that I have that, Chap, I know exactly what you're talking about. You're not really cognizant of anything else. You're in your own sort of head, and you're dreaming about music that's either working itself out or it's not. And chap, yeah, I sort of, music has been all my life. I never knew that I would be doing it like I am doing it, but it's been all part of my life, all my life.
Well, yeah, and when you do get that idea, and then you've got the theme, and for me, I use Logic Pro. I'm using that workstation, and mostly digital stuff now, but I'll put in the MIDI file and the data, and then I'll hear, oh, well, now your song is done, so let's go on a 4-day trip to the mountains. And I go, it isn't done. All that's happened is that I kept it from a imminent death by just capturing it when it flew by in my consciousness. And now the real work begins when you orchestrate and you think about it. And you
Well, all of that part, Rob, I can't do. I'm self-taught. I don't even read music very well. And I know what their notes are and all the rest of it. But if you say, come on, Michael, you know, Blue Moon, sight read it. Sorry? Sight read it. Can't you sight read that? You can't. Right. I can't. So I know, and the only thing that really drives, I'd like to know what drives you in music, for me, is melody. And you say, well, Michael, aren't you interested in rhythm? No. Harmony? Yes, if it's like a signpost to the melody, but melody is for me everything in music. So when I've got a melody and you can drive a truck over it and it will still survive in anybody's arrangements and however it's played, then you've got something. Chap, that's what I try and do. And so this album, The Peace and Reconciliation, it's 8 movements. And you would say, well, Michael, you wrote the Requiem, right? Yes. And did the music immediately come to you for the Requiem? No. It didn't? No. So where did it come from? It came from all sorts of different places. The music has been used in all sorts of different ways.
Wow.
I mean, people like Bach can do the same thing. I certainly can. And so, for example, in Paradisum, it was originally a cello piece. And it's like this on the piano. So when you've got a tune like that, and there's no unnecessary extra notes, they've all been ironed out, and that's what for me is also its composition, is ironing out the wrong notes.
Right.
And basically just leaving the solid things. Then that piece of music was with a cello called Some Other Time. And then I suddenly thought, look at that. When I was doing the Requiem, in Paradisum, look at that, it fits. That's how it works.
It's a match.
It's a match. So Rob, I'm always going after matches. And once you've got your tune, there's any numbers of which way you can use it, and I have. And so this particular album is only the introitus was actually written for the Requiem, but the rest of it are tunes that I've lassoed from the past, and the text fits beautifully with what the tune is, and they are natural marriage made in heaven. But in fact, they didn't start off like that.
Well, the interesting thing about your description of a good melody, I've heard that said in a lot of different ways, and in studio producer land, you know, because I've run a couple of indie labels, and then I've also consulted a couple of things. I've been on a couple of major labels, and as a voting member of the Grammys, and you are too, you know that we get this immense flood of cassette tapes and CDs and digital press packages, full albums and singles and many genres and stuff. But I remember a couple of years ago, I was sitting at a studio with my friend Carmen Grillo at his studio in Los Angeles, and I had just been to the mail drop, and I had this huge stack of all this stuff in it. And Carmen said, well, when we go on break, let's listen to something. And we got to talking about this process, and he said, isn't it interesting that you know, something that's on, maybe even on a cassette or a CD that's incredibly technically badly done. Like, you know, you can hear the person's dog barking, and then, you know, maybe there's it starts raining, and then there's the thunder, and then the voice cuts out, and then it's like the family gets into an argument while they're trying to make the demo. And you're just going, but you know, a song and a melody, like you said, you could drive a truck over it and it still survives. That happens in this music that gets sent to us from time to time, right?
Yes.
You know, you hear these things.
I mean, it's a. I mean, I'm not sure one can be taught melody. You either have got it or feel for it. Rob, I always know, man, when a melody is flabby. When it hasn't got the structure in it, and I would say that's what I do. I don't do anything else. That's what I do. I know that part.
Well,
and I can't play jazz, Rob, or anything like that. I can't do nothing like it. I wish I could, but I can't.
Well, you know, I'm always happy when I hear people say, I can't play jazz, because I say, well, good, then that's maybe you can come to my show.
Yeah.
In the audience, because
okay, then Rob, I tell you what, you know, I can't play. I really can't. No, I really can't. So I'm not going to fudge this. I really can't. But what I do, some of the best records actually I've made have nothing to do with composition.
Really?
They're not. Nope. They are totally, and I had normally very little time for it, improvised. So an album that I did with Martin Tillman, the cellist, and Tim Wheater, who I mentioned just earlier, the flautist. Chap, if you want to hear extraordinarily beautiful music, and neither they nor I knew what we were going to do. There was no set song, there was no chord sequence, and there was no flabbiness. And very often we would hit the wall, and it would be no good. But when we did not hit the wall, and we could float between here and heaven for almost 4 minutes, and I would just play any chord I felt like, but I felt where he or they were going to go, and they were playing where they thought I was going to go. And when you have no safety net called a composition beneath you, but just pure euphoria, incredibly powerful music. And I suppose that is the nearest thing I have to jazz, but it's not with all the chords and tunes and everything else. No.
Well, you know, I completely 100% agree. And when I was in high school and college in Colorado, I had older mentors that were telling me this kind of music was possible, and this kind of experience was possible. And I had been doing more traditional jazz, like, you know, the Dave Brubeck stuff and Count Basie and that, but they said, no, we're going to go into the mountains, 12,000 feet up. We're all going to do massive amounts of drugs. And then we're going to get soprano saxophones and flugelhorns, and we're going to stand facing a rock face and play 2 open fifths for as long as we can until we see God. And, you know, and I'm 17 years old. I'm not old enough really to smoke a cigarette or drink a beer. And I've got these older guys saying, come on, Mullins, this is going to be a spiritual experience. And I'm up there and I'm looking at these mountains, and we play this chord. It's like an open 2 chord, like a C, a G, a C. And then the chord goes throughout this whole canyon for like 40 seconds. And you hear this all happening. And then so that led to us trying to do the same thing that you're describing, of just sitting down without the plan. And sometimes we would find that. But, you know, did you ever, you know, did you guys ever discuss what key you're going to play in, or what tempo?
No,
or just,
no, Rob, it was literally, and I've done this with several other musicians like Harold Moses, the viola player, a fantastic player as well. I would say, right, boys, because I had a keyboard, right? Not a piano, it was a synthesizer. So I said, look, I'm going to play a an open A minor, and they had headphones on. And when I point to you, play whatever you want, but don't play anything until I point to you. So we established the key, and it's now with a synth, it's a string pad or whatever it might be,
Okay.
and it's ringing out. And then I thought, okay, there's 10 seconds of that. Now you know what key we're in. Off you go. And Martin or Harold or Tim or whoever, or Joe or anybody else, they would take it and run with it. And then I would go with the appropriate chord beneath them, and they would bounce off again, and then they would go ricocheting around. Now, when you can do that for 4 minutes without crashing, or me playing some stupid harmony which doesn't make any sense with anybody, and then you know, then you know, okay, maybe we do need a composition. But if you're all on the same page harmonically and everything else,
Right.
chat, and people have so much freedom. And if they're really good players, of course, they've got to be really good players and really able to improvise, but the freedom they have. So if you listen to, Serenity, Afterglow, those are all wind songs. These are all totally on the spot, in the moment, totally. It's just being in love with somebody without saying anybody's name, and you float out there and you reach ecstasy. And it is absolutely glorious way of making music if you find the right partner to do it with.
Yeah, some of my friends, I work with a lot of different genres, and one of my buddies is the harmonica player for this longtime pop group called War, and we've done a few projects, and sometimes everything goes great, sometimes it goes badly, and Stan just looks at me, and he just says, the whole key is calling the right people, because if you have the people that you already are on that wavelength together, then you can just fly and do all this stuff. But if you get one person in there that's like, well, I don't know, I don't really follow that.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. Well, I thought I was going to get 3 minutes, and now I only got a minute and a half.
Yeah. Well, and Rob, were you talking about War? I mean, Eric Burden stuff.
Yeah, he was in there early. Now it's just Ani Jordan is the only original member in this version of War, but they're actually getting back. But before we go on, I got to mention to my listeners, people that aren't familiar with you, what we've been talking about in particular is 2 amazing albums by Michael Hoppe. I'm going through here for the ones with the flute.
It's Afterglow, Rob. Afterglow, which is with Martin and Tim, and Serenity.
Okay.
Which is with the viola.
Cello,
and
flute,
with
and keyboard improvisations.
Yeah.
And then the earlier one was The Yearning, Romances for Alto Flute.
Yeah, those were composed. They were composed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then these other ones, you guys were just, doing your thing.
We're just winging it, and that's absolutely right. So if you've got any anybody whinging, so I can't, it's too long or whatever. No, it doesn't work. You've got to be completely and utterly on the same page, and it is glorious when it works. Absolutely glorious. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, you think, well, go on. Sorry,
we've been talking about, access between the earthly plane and the astral heavenly plane, and how music is something that comes from out there. And I always felt, because I was a little bit of a disturbed child, because I was a really unhappy person. I had like bad medical problems and almost died in this car crash. And I was upset and really dark for a while. And I would find myself, whenever I could get to a piano and I could just play a certain kind of chord or a bass line that I heard, then all of a sudden I just felt like my heart was opening up. It just made me emotionally feel better, because it's kind of a cure. Even a sad thing like your Requiem has some very sad parts, but it actually is a liberating thing.
Yes. Yeah, Charlie, it's like an aspirin. Music is like an aspirin for me. I mean, and I quite agree with you, Rob, about the piano. They're just a lovely black and white. They even look beautiful. And I always knew this, even before I could play anything, how beautiful it looked.
Uh-huh.
And but where I sort of come from really is to have other people who are very, very, very good players play my music. I like to give them something completely worked out, and I do, but they play it, and I'm invariably, Rob, in the background with a
Uh-huh.
pad. I'm not sort of up front playing. And so that's why I've always liked somebody else playing it. So this, I mean, let me just play you one piece here.
Sure, please.
This is called Renouncement, and it works, of course, as a piano piece. It's written for Martin, the cellist, because of the cello. I could hear that in my head, and I thought, all right, cello. And I'm doing an album with Martin of cello music. So this is really how I work. So I thought, okay, well, think cello, think of the range of a cello. Right? Those, I thought, oh, right. Those, yeah, right. Okay, now I'm going to try and use that cello into a tune with a wholeness about it. And here it is, but I'll just play a bit of it. Think cello. So that is what I do.
You know, it's so incredible because here's the interesting thing. I know people who have studied music, like 25 years of piano lessons, and I've taught a lot of piano lessons too. But when I hear someone play like what you just played, which was incredibly beautiful, there's so many things naturally going on with your natural talent and combination with all the experiences in the years, because I can tell the difference between the accompaniment and the melody and the way that you play. And then I can hear the counterline. And, you know, I've done a few things with cello, and I know when you're going up to that really sweet, that high C up there. Up, boom, and then the minor. That's, in a way, it's a little English, that one. It's a little English. And, you know, we were talking yesterday, and we were on the phone, and I thought to myself, and I even said out loud to you, I said, I've never had anyone with an English accent on my show. And I'm so excited just to hear him talk. But is there, you know, was there anything in your time in England, like comedy shows, or were you influenced by television or radio, like the BBC or?
No, Rob. I mean, basically, musically influenced in that I loved Edward Elgar, who my grandfather photographed in 1912. And so I adore his sort of inner melancholy music. But he was an extremely wonderful orchestrator for his own music. So I love what that is about. But I can't say particularly because I'm English that I've absorbed anything particularly. I mean, the type of music that I absolutely, for me, is everywhere in my head. Rachmaninoff, Schumann, Chopin, all the boys. So you say, well, Michael, Stravinsky, Prokofiev. So you're not into anything with some real serious piquant sauce on it? Not really. so what I've just played is typical. So when those people I just mentioned,
right.
So you would say, well, Michael, what's your favorite, a song form or art form? I suppose it's the nocturne.
The nocturne, yeah.
The Chopin nocturne, endless legato, and there's no form of strict. And so you say, well, Michael, what do you really like? I love rubato.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got two people being on the same page and instinctively picking out when the rubato, stolen time, taking the rhythm from one bar, giving it together, but with so much natural ease. Rob, it's incredibly beautiful when you're both on the same page with rubato. So those are my influences. I wouldn't say I have anything particularly English.
Well,
no.
I'm really more speaking about just the era that you were growing up in, like food and comedy and the Beatles maybe. And what was it like to live in England? And why do you guys only put 1 cube of ice in a gin and tonic? I'm on tour over there.
To this day, when I have my scotch or whatever, I don't put any ice in there. And you say, well, why not? That's ridiculous. It sort of is. But if you start putting a piece of ice in there, then you'll always need it. And you'll really miss it when you don't have it. As I don't start with it, I don't miss it. Does it
right. Well, yeah, I was, I did this one tour over there where we were at a hotel and, it was nice and everything. And I said, I'll have a gin and tonic. That's kind of an English drink, maybe. I didn't have one of those. And so they bring me the thing and it's this big, long, thing. And it's got one little piece of ice in there. And the American thing is you start by packing the entire thing with ice, and then you pour the liquor out of the stuff on the thing. So I get it and they set it down and I'm with the band and everybody's kind of looking at the drink and they're looking at me. I'm looking at the girl and she's like, well then, there you go. And then she just walked off.
Of course.
I think I'm
but in fact, I know it does taste better.
What?
It does taste better. It does taste better with more ice. I know it does. But I sort of have got used to. But let me tell you something which I had really had to learn, Rob, when I came to the States by being English. Okay.
What year did you come to?
Self-effacement is an art form.
Okay.
In the UK, it is when you say, well, I've just done this little tune, and it's a fantastic tune, let's say. But you say, I've just done this little tune. I don't know if it's worth to, all this ridiculous English self-effacement.
Uh-huh.
I used to say that a lot until I realized that all my friends in the States didn't understand what I'm talking about. Well, if you think it's a silly little tune, why are you playing it? So I had to really get past this behavior pattern, which took me years.
Wow.
So, because I grew up with it. So those are the things that I felt that I inherited by being in the UK, but which in the States, I gradually did away with that.
Okay, so is your wife English? Do you guys meet in England?
She's Canadian.
Canadian.
And her mother was English, her father was Scottish, but Canadian, and so she's Canadian, yeah. And we've been together for 43 years. I'll send you a nice picture to put on the screen.
Wow, man. Well, here's something I'm just curious about because, obviously you guys are a really strong team. You're still together after all these years, which is great because I couldn't do it. I've never been able to do that. But if you have a trip, like I noticed in your bio, you're flying all the way to Korea to perform this stuff. And, the problem I would always run into when I was dating somebody or in a long-term relationship is they would say, well, if you're going to Korea, what, when are we going? And, and it's hard, right? And I'd be like, no, that doesn't mean we're going. It means I go to work.
Yeah, Rob, I tell you what, man, I have been to Korea about at least 10 times, at
Wow.
least. And all with Monica, except one time when she couldn't make it because she had her own business to deal with.
Uh-huh.
And she was in charge of media for the tourism industry in Canada. It was a big job. So this one occasion, she couldn't come with me. Man, I feel so bereft when I'm by myself. And of course, I can pull myself together. Of course I can. But I really did miss having her there. And when I go on these trips, part of the deal, we both go together. And of course, when they meet her, they now know her very well and like her enormously. So she is very much part of the package. I did not ever like being solo. Going by myself, I mean, have I got my shirt on properly? I mean, I'm pretty clueless. Pretty clueless, really. And I felt very uneasy. So going together was always, that's how we did it.
That's
how we do it.
That's just so great, man. And it's so great. And I want to go to the food thing now because I have an English friend in Los Angeles, and he's like a life coach guy. And what his wife does is she manages this ginormous hospital administration network that's, like $20 billion over 6 states per year and stuff. And I said, Phil, what do you guys eat? Like when you sit down to dinner, when you do get a chance to see each other, and do you have time to cook and eat any home kind of food, or how do you, with your schedule and hers, do you guys plan and try and get together and like home cook meals? Or are you always just on the go, like getting your food brought in?
Well, it's out here because of COVID. We go to very few restaurants. We go to 2 per week. 5 days we eat here, or we bring in. We order in from these restaurants. Rob, it's really strange, man. I got to admit this. Food is important, but not so much for me. And you say, well, Michael, don't you enjoy it? Yes, of course I do. But is it something you think about? No, I don't. So basically, when a plate is put in front of you, you sort of motor your way through it, and that's about it. I'm embarrassed to say, yes, it sort of is the case. So you've therefore finished your meal perhaps long before your wife had, correct? So what does food mean to you? I mean, it's a strange thing, man, but it's something to get out of the way.
Right.
It's something to where I can talk to whoever or think about whatever it is, but it's something which I enjoy. But it is sometimes, Rob, it's a form of a hindrance.
Oh, I agree.
So if you I don't cook, and you say, well, don't know? No, not really. Why? Well, because I think you can do anything if you have sufficient interest. If you don't have the interest, actually, you cannot do it. I don't have enough interest in that. So I enjoy food, but am I analyzing what I'm eating? No. Are you a bit thoughtless about what you're doing, Michael? Yes, in that area. Yes, I would say so. I'm not a foodie. I'm not a foodie.
Well, it's interesting too, because when we would go to London, everyone would just say, "Don't eat English food; it's terrible. Let's go get."
Oh no, that's not true.
But these guys were just trying to get me to start going to the Indian restaurants with them.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then last summer, I went and played in India with Hubert Laws, the flute player.
Oh yeah.
I've been with Hubert 29 years as his keyboard player. And so we get over to this place in India, and man, the Indian food there is great. It's great in England. But back to the hindrance thing, this is something that really made my associates and my family really angry when I was a younger man. As I said, there are things that I think are complete waste of time. The number one thing is sleep. Because I have always hated having to stop what I'm doing, be tired, and then go, shit, I have to lay down and sleep now. I hate sleep. I hate the process of eating. And
Yeah.
I also, I really hate the negotiation process.
Yeah.
Because the negotiation process, David Foster talks about this, about the more people there are in the room or at the conference table or at the studio desk, the longer it's going to take and the possibly worse result that you can have. Because if you've got, you know, David Foster and a singer like Barbara Streisand, it just goes click, 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 boom, gone, done, thank you. And if you got all the guys of Chicago, plus their manager, plus their label guy, plus the publisher, plus the engineer, plus Foster, you could be sitting in there for 30 hours and nothing's going to happen.
Absolutely. I used to hate that chap. I used to hate studios. Listening when I was doing A&R, going to a studio and listening for and taking so long to get to the point of what that is. I hated it too. Yeah. So it's really, Rob, it's all about coming back onto music here.
Yes, sir.
It's all, for me, man, about emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, Michael, don't you use your head at all? No, cerebral? No. So you're not anything that's challenging, a bit ironic? No. You don't want to have anything like that disturbing your life? Not really. And you're not interested to sort of pursue the more intellectual part of no, I'm not. I see. So I just want to say, so basically, Rob, what I do, I'm not clear about, frankly, anything in life much, but I am very clear about music and what I do. It's not as though it's a wishy-washy, you know, wow, gosh. No, I sort of have known, after these years, I've been doing it as well, for same as you, for about 35, 40 years, and what drives me. So when I just played that little piece, part of it, it's the emotion that comes out of it, where you're really moved. And if you're moved with a melody that hits you over the head and it's played with such ravishing abilities like Martin Tillman, the cellist, can play,
right, sure.
That's it, fellow. You don't need anything else for me, nothing. And so when this sort of choral record came into being with this magnificent choir singing this type of melody beautifully, fantastic, chap. Fantastic. Don't need anything else. Don't need anything else.
Well, I've got to thank you so much for making time in your schedule to share these amazing stories about your life and your music. And once again, the category is?
It is best choral performance. And that is in the classical sector. Rob, I don't know if you want to sort of put this anywhere else in the interview, but I think it's an incredibly important part too of my life, and we've all gone through something like this.
Okay.
When you're a young person, you know, an awful lot to learn, and you don't know much really about so many things. When somebody is much older than you, giving you some advice, sometimes it can be incredibly important. And I think I mentioned when I was in the army, when I was 21 and 22, I was in it for a short service commission. That was for 3 years in the British Army. And I became an officer. And after 3 years, I thought I should stay in the army because my father thought so. And I didn't know, why not? I enjoyed what I was doing. Luckily, we were not at war, so I had a lot of free time. And I went to see the brigadier, and the brigadier said, yes, Michael, what? I want to stay in the army, sir. 3 years are over. He said, sit down and take your hat off. How you like being in the army? Well, we much, Michael. But I suggest, I can see that your head is so full of music. You should not remain with us. You should not stay with us. You should do a career to do with something you love, which is music. And although I was at the time rather disappointed that he hadn't encouraged me to stay in something which I was enjoying, the army, he was absolutely, absolutely right in hindsight. And so sometimes our life is saved by somebody elder, giving somebody so much younger, and he saved my life, that brigadier, by telling me to do what I do.
That is so fantastic,
So, you wanna put,
Michael. Well, I hope I hope at some point you and I will be able to sit down together and just have a you drink scotch, I'm a vodka or a tequila guy, and I want to wish you a lot of luck this season with your Grammy bid. It's been fascinating getting to know you. I'm so honored, man, and I can't wait. I can't wait for more people, to find out about your massive melodic talent and your wonderful advice for composers, because, for some reason, anytime it's in an English accent, it's 20% more true.
Yeah, really, Rob? Yeah, well.
All right, Michael.
Okay,
this has been a great interview. It's Michael Hoppe, ladies and gentlemen. Amazing composer, very interesting guy to talk to. And we'll have this podcast up soon so that people can enjoy it. And thanks again for coming on, man. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you.